By early 1945, the German army was collapsing under the relentless pressure of the Allied advance. Yet on the foggy fields of Western Germany, the Wehrmacht still fought desperately, its soldiers clinging to discipline and routine. They had faced Sherman tanks before, slow, methodical machines that rumbled toward them with predictable American precision. But one cold morning, something new appeared on the horizon. At first, it looked like a line of ordinary Shermans until they saw the strange, towering frames mounted on their turrets. Moments later, the air filled with a shrieking, unnatural roar. Dozens of rockets tore through the mist, streaking fire and smoke across the sky before smashing into the German positions. The earth erupted. Men screamed. Bunkers vanished under cascades of fire. The German front line, seasoned, disciplined, and accustomed to artillery, broke in seconds. This was the arrival of the M4 Sherman T34 Calliope, a tank armed not with just a cannon, but a 60-tube rocket launcher that could unleash a storm of high-explosive rockets in under 10 seconds. To the soldiers who faced it, it was less a machine of war and more a mechanical monster. The sound alone was enough to unnerve even the hardened veterans of the Eastern Front. A weapon born of necessity. The Calliope was born not from luxury, but desperation and innovation. By 1944, the U.S. Army needed something that could blast through fortified positions without exposing infantry to suicidal assaults. The solution was unconventional: mount a rocket battery atop a Sherman tank. It was awkward, heavy, and often inaccurate, but devastating when used in groups. Each tank carried 64.5-inch rockets, designed originally for aircraft. When fired together, they created a rolling wall of explosions capable of obliterating anything in a wide radius. Accuracy didn't matter, saturation did. When the Calliope fired, it drowned everything in chaos. The first encounter. For German troops, the first encounter was a nightmare. Soldiers reported hearing what sounded like 100 banshees screaming across the battlefield before the rockets struck. Hardened men who had survived Stalingrad in Normandy now fled from unseen terror. Reports from the front describe entire companies abandoning their positions after a single Calliope salvo. "We thought hell had opened," one prisoner later confessed. The sky was on fire. What made the Calliope so psychologically powerful wasn't just its destructive ability, it was its unpredictability. The Germans had no training, no tactics, no preparation for this kind of weapon. Artillery they could time and dodge, tanks they could outflank. But the Calliope's rocket barrage blurred all rules. Smoke, fire, and fear. From a distance, American observers watched the effect in awe. The ground rippled like a living thing. Smoke rolled over villages, leaving nothing but shattered ruins and blackened earth. Even Allied infantry, advancing behind the rocket tanks, described it as the sound of the world ending. The psychological damage was far greater than the physical destruction. When the Calliope fired, it announced not just death, but dominance. It told the Germans that the Americans had reached a new level of warfare, one that combined industrial firepower with sheer psychological terror. The end of resistance. By early 1945, as the Allies pushed deeper into the Rhineland, the Calliope had become a symbol of unstoppable momentum. Whenever its launchers appeared on the field, German resistance often collapsed before the first tank even fired. The roaring rocket Shermans, as soldiers called them, were used not only for destruction but for intimidation, to shatter morale before the battle began. For the Wehrmacht, it marked the beginning of the end. The once proud army of Blitzkrieg, which had terrified Europe with its tanks and air raids, was now itself paralyzed by fear, brought low by a weapon that turned sound and fire into psychological warfare. The legacy of the Calliope. In truth, the T-34 Calliope was not a perfect weapon. It was heavy, difficult to reload, and often inaccurate. Many commanders found it impractical for fast-moving operations. But its real legacy wasn't in its engineering, it was in its effect. It showed how war had changed. Technology could now destroy not just bodies, but morale. The Calliope's terrifying barrages symbolized the final stage of total war, where machines no longer fought just to win ground, but to crush the enemy's will to fight. And in the final months of World War II, that's exactly what they did.